Sector 9 wasn't marked on most star maps. There was no need. Everyone who mattered already knew what it was. It was where freedom died. 12 planets. All lost. 7 terraformed by Earth. 5 stripped to ash by the Vorak slaver ring. They didn't conquer. They harvested. Men were broken into beasts. Women disappeared, sold to buyers who never gave names. Children were auctioned like meat in cages, sobbing under arena lights while alien warlords sipped wine and placed bets. The Galactic Council ignored it. Of course they did. Slavery kept their economies running. As long as it didn't touch their clean core planets, they let the outer rings rot. But one day, Sector 9 made a mistake. It touched Earth. The colony on Turner 4 had been a research post. 57 scientists. Minimal defense. Civilian only. It lasted 3 hours. Vorak raiders dropped like locusts, no warning, no hails. Just flames, chains, and laughter. They cut off outgoing transmissions, jammed every signal with pirate tech. They thought no one saw. They were wrong. A single emergency beacon escaped through the comm scrambler, buried in static, fragmented, weak. But Earth heard it. Not the full message. Just one voice. A boy's voice. They took my mom. Please. Someone, please help. That was it. 17 seconds. Just enough. Earth didn't hesitate. No fanfare. No press release. No diplomatic response. They didn't send an ambassador. They didn't send a fleet. They sent a man. A pod dropped from a stealth frigate in high orbit. No ID tags. No clearance beacons. Just a matte black spear of titanium shearing down through Turner 4's atmosphere. It didn't slow. It didn't blink. It struck the ground so hard the sand turned to glass for 300 meters in every direction. The slaver guards laughed when they saw it, gathered around with shock batons and shock whips, staring at the object embedded in the bone-colored dunes. A coffin, one said, grinning. Earth sent a corpse. Maybe it's a peace offering. The pod hissed. Steam vented from the sides. The front split with a thunderous snap, and something moved inside. A shadow stepped forward, barefoot, bare-chested, eyes black with war paint, skin lined with old scars. His spine flexed like a predator's. His right hand clenched. His left carried nothing. His face was still. His expression, colder than space. A brand was seared into his shoulder. A trident, not a tattoo. A burn. Permanent. Navy SEAL. Tier Omega. Unit 9. A name no one had heard in decades. Then he moved. The first slaver didn't even react. 1 second he was grinning. The next, his neck was split open with a jagged bone shard. Not a knife, just sharpened wreckage pulled from a pod wall. The second guard tried to run. He made it 4 steps before the man tackled him into the ground, gripped the back of his skull, and smashed it into the glassed earth until his brain leaked out like spilled oil. By the time the other 8 realized what was happening, he was gone. They turned in all directions. Nothing. A whisper of wind. A footstep in the dust. Then their throats were opening, one after another. One screamed into a comm transmitter. Under attack, GHHK, by human. Just one who. Static. Gideon Hawk didn't speak. He just worked. He moved like a shadow, like smoke poured into muscle. Every strike was precise. Surgical. No wasted motion. He took rifles from corpses. Didn't use them. Didn't need to. His hands were weapons. His mind, a map of violence. In 20 minutes, the outer compound was silent. Blood pooled across the dirt. Inside the fortress, alarms flared. Commandant Ulza spat orders, pacing behind a wall of guards. He's a lone infiltrator. Track him. Hunt him. Use the dogs. They released 10 hellhounds, cybernetic beast bred for killing. They lasted 9 minutes. The security feed showed one of them lunging, jaws wide. Then the footage cut. When the cameras came back online, the dogs were in pieces. One still twitched. The rest were scattered across the courtyard like toys after tantrum. The man had torn them apart with nothing but a crowbar and his teeth. Ulza tried to rally his men. His just one oath savage. Kill him and we. Then the door behind him opened, and Gideon walked in, covered in blood. holding the severed hand of Ulza's top lieutenant. He tossed it across the floor. Ulza went for his gun. Gideon shot first, not with a bullet, with a chair leg sharpened into a stake. It flew through the air and punched clean through the commandant's chest. He didn't scream, just fell backward into his throne. Gideon walked up, yanked the stake free, and left without a word. In the control room, he triggered every slave cage. Thousands of locks clicked open. Hundreds of prisoners poured into the light, weak, shaking, wide-eyed. Gideon walked among them like a ghost. One girl stepped forward, tiny, maybe 9 years old, eyes sunken. "Ah, are you the army?" Gideon looked down at her. His voice, when it came, was soft. "No, I'm the payment." He handed her a knife, turned, walked back toward the fortress. Behind him, the screams began anew, this time from slavers. It took 4 hours to finish. He didn't kill them all. He let the freed slaves kill the last 50. Slow, loud, poetic. When it was over, Gideon walked to the main gate, found a rusted pipe, dipped it in slaver blood, and scrawled across the wall in 12-foot letters, "You laughed. I didn't." He vanished into the dunes. No trace, no trail. The Galactic Council demanded answers from Earth. Threatened sanctions. Threatened war. Earth sent no reply. Only a transmission containing footage of the boy's cry for help. And below it, one line of text. "We responded." The auction was already in motion when the scream started. Cinder Station hovered above a dying moon, a luxury fortress built from slave bones and corporate blood. 37,000 feet long. Gold-etched corridors. Transparent floors revealing the slave pens below, so the buyers could sip their wine while watching agony squirm beneath their boots. The crowd was electric. Galactic royalty, syndicate billionaires, warlords from 7 sectors, all dressed in silk, all drunk on power. Every seat occupied, every bidder ready. The platform lit up. A row of children was marched onto the auction stage, earthborn, chained at the neck, eyes hollow, backs scarred, knees shaking. The announcer stepped forward. 6 eyes, velvet voice, tail curled around the MIC. "Lot number 337, he said with a grin. "Purebred humans, farm-trained, 5 males, 2 females, good bone density, compliant, pre-broken." Bidding began. One warlord raised his hand. Another upped the price. A third offered to buy them all for double if the girl cried during inspection. The audience laughed, and then the feed glitched. Once, twice, then static. The announcer frowned, tapping his earpiece. "Apologies. Minor. Wait. Security's reporting." The lights shut off. Total blackout. The elite guests looked around, confused, not afraid. Not yet. They were too rich to be afraid. Then the vent screamed. A sound poured through the ducts, wet, guttural, like flesh being carved by rusted knives. The first explosion hit the southern wall. Screams erupted as fire washed over the back rows. Guests ran. God shouted. Another boom. The eastern wing collapsed. Then a voice echoed through every speaker. Calm. Flat. American accented. "Every one of you paid for flesh. Now pay in yours." Panic. True panic. Slaver guards poured into the auction room, rifles raised. Drones hovered. Shields activated. But they were too late. He was already inside. Gideon Hawk dropped from the ceiling like a curse in motion. No armor. No exosuit. Just sweat, blood, and a modified plasma axe stolen from a Vorak officer 2 weeks prior. He landed behind the announcer. The six-eyed freak turned. Gideon split him from groin to throat in one swing. The stage painted red. Buyers tried to run. The floor under them shattered. A charge had been placed hours earlier, right below the escape corridor. He'd planned this. He'd mapped every inch of Cinder's vents, every guard rotation, every emergency failsafe. He wasn't improvising. He was performing. Guards rushed him. 10 of them. Coordinated. Gideon grabbed one mid-run and used him as a human shield, slamming his corpse into 2 more. He ducked under a stun blast, rolled, kicked a table into another's legs, crushed a man's head under his boot before it hit the ground. Someone screamed. A buyer, a politician, dressed in galactic green, begging, "Please, I'm not like them. I was just watching." Gideon turned his head, just slightly. "Exactly." And he shot her in the chest. A nearby guard fired a full clip of plasma into Gideon's back. Nothing. He wore no armor. But he didn't fall. He turned. Slowly. The guard stayed, mouth open. Gideon smiled. Just barely. Wrong guard. He closed the distance and snapped the man's spine with a twist. The children were still on stage, frozen, shaking. Gideon walked to them. One boy flinched, expecting pain. Instead, he felt the chain snap. Gideon broke their restraints one by one, tossed each kid a weapon. "Knives, clubs, rebar. You walk out of here," he said, "or you die like this. I don't carry the weak. You want freedom." He pointed to the crowd. "Earn it." The kids hesitated. Then one of the girls, maybe 10 years old, limped forward, found a slaver dragging himself away across the floor. His leg was gone. His mouth was begging. She stabbed him in the throat. And the rest followed. It wasn't revenge. It was release. The buyers were hunted by their purchases. Their screams echoed through every golden hallway. In one of the VIP lounges, 7 cartel lords locked themselves inside. Reinforced walls, laser grids, panic codes. Safe. Until the room's oxygen vents started spewing gas. One pounded the door. Another clawed at his own throat. The last thing they saw was Gideon standing on the opposite side of the reinforced glass, watching them die without blinking. On the upper level, Commander Raka, the security chief of Cinder, screamed into a comm line. "He's just a man. Just a man." The transmission cut off mid-sentence, because Gideon walked through the wall. Not around. Not through a door. Through the wall. Charges had blown it wide open. Dust filled the room. Raka tried to draw his blade. Gideon broke his arm. Raka screamed. Gideon shoved the broken bone through his own ribcage and left him on the floor to bleed out. The last 120 guests barricaded themselves in the auction gallery. They begged the council for rescue. The council didn't answer, because by then, the feeds were live. Gideon had hijacked every stream, thousands of terminals, public screens, black market networks. Every viewer watching what they'd once paid to enjoy. Only this time, they were the product. Gideon stood on the auction stage again, a mountain of corpses behind him. His voice rang across the stars. "You laughed. You paid. You clapped when the chains went on." He picked up a shock collar from the floor, held it up. "Now you wear them." He dropped the collar and set the stage ablaze. Screams cut through the fire as the final buyers were fed into the inferno. He didn't stay to watch them die. He walked out the front gate as the entire station began to self-destruct. Bombs planted. Timers ticking. He passed through slave corridors where the freed now ruled. Children stood over Slaver corpses. Men and women held rifles for the first time, not to obey, but to kill. A woman with one arm missing stopped him. Who are you?" He didn't answer. He just kept walking. Cinder Station burned behind him. Ash fell across the stars. 12 billion watched the destruction unfold in real time. The Galactic Council tried to block the footage. Too late. The feeds were out. Some tried to deny it. Others whispered. One phrase echoed on back channels in prison worlds, on rebel ships and slave planets, scratched into steel and blood. He came alone. He freed them all. And he burned the market. Earth received no formal thanks. Only one return message came from Cinder's wreckage. Shortwave. Untraceable. 3 words. Auction permanently closed. There was blood in the data feeds. Footage of Cinder Station's destruction was everywhere, replayed in silence, shared in whispers, watched in dark rooms with hell breath. The fire, the screams, the stage of death, every second of it was burned into the galactic mind like a myth that arrived too early. The market was gone. The buyers were dead. And one phrase kept looping like a virus no system could quarantine. One man, no survivors. The syndicates called it terrorism. The survivors called it justice. But the slavers called it something else. They called it war. At the center of the Vorak ring sat Dravis Prime. A fortress planet carved from volcanic stone and mechanical veins. Rings of warships circled it like hungry sharks. 80,000 troops. 40 dreadnoughts. Shield walls so thick they could withstand a supernova blast for 9 minutes. Dravis was where the butcher ruled. Overlord Jarnak, 10 feet tall, silver-skinned, one eye carved from crystal, the other black as void. His voice could silence riots. His hands had executed kings. And his throne was made from bones. Human bones. Children's, mostly, taken from early resistance colonies. Bleached, arranged into something grotesque and holy. Jarnak watched the cinder footage without blinking. He didn't flinch, didn't speak. Then he stood and roared, "Bring me the ghost." The bounty hit the networks 10 minutes later. The price, 10 million cred units, dead or alive. 15 if the body was still warm. Hunters swarmed. Pirates. Mercs. Entire battalions rerouted their nav maps toward O-Space. Everyone wanted a piece of the myth. None of them came back. No ships. No logs. Just silence. Over the next 8 days, 17 vessels vanished in open space. No wreckage. No distress calls. Just shadows on scanners, followed by nothing. On the 9th day, a corpse floated into orbit around Dravis. Frozen. Arms gone. Face peeled off. In place of its heart, there was a knife. Etched into the blade was a phrase in English. "Stop sending children." Jarnak seethed. He ordered the fleet locked down. Fortifications doubled. And then, because ego is louder than logic, he broadcast a challenge. System-wide. Human, you are nothing but meat in motion. You are not a god. You are not a myth. You are prey, and I am the hunter. The feed cut. The fortress prepared. But Gideon Hawk didn't reply with words. He replied with fire. No one saw how he got inside. The outer sensors detected nothing. The sentry bots didn't register movement. The outer gates were untouched. But at 0400 hours, an explosion ripped through the eastern armory. Then the hydro core. Then the orbital cannons. Dravis Prime shook. The alarm screamed. And then came the silence. Too sudden. Too complete. The comms tower blinked once. Then all 54 communication officers were found dead. Stabbed through the base of the skull, their fingers still froze on the keys. In the reactor wing, an engineer tried to send a distress signal using backup frequency. She didn't finish the word transmit before a combat blade ripped out through her mouth. The bodies stacked. Quickly, efficiently. Gideon didn't charge. He didn't roar. He walked, room to room, floor to floor, a shadow behind your breath. A whisper turned to nightmare. He used no firearms, no grenades, only blades, only silence. At one point, Jarnak's elite troopers, the Void Fangs, cornered him in Corridor 9B. 20 men, full armor, neural linked. They flanked him from both sides. He let them. Then he killed them all in 17 seconds. One trooper fired. Gideon caught the bolt with his offhand shield, broke the trooper's arm, stabbed him in the throat with his own blade, disarmed the next one mid-swing, shattered a helmet with a single elbow strike, and impaled the remaining 6 like cattle on a spike of their own equipment. One survived long enough to scream, "What are you?" Gideon looked at him. "I'm your correction." Then he crushed his spine against the wall like it was made of wet clay. Jarnak watched from the throne room's monitor. His voice dropped low, cold. "Get me my hammer." He stood. His armor was older than most civilizations, engraved in dead languages, powered by the lifeblood of extinct species. It hissed as it locked to his frame. His hammer, a two-handed war weapon forged from neutronium and hate, lit up. I will make his skull sing. He opened the throne doors himself, and waited, and soon Gideon arrived, barefoot, burned, smoke trailing off his back. He walked over a floor of corpses. 30 guards lay still behind him, faces broken, torso split open. His left arm was bleeding. His right hand held a piece of sharpened pipe. He dropped it. They stared at each other. Jarnak swung first. The hammer came fast, faster than it should for something that size. It tore the air in half. Gideon ducked, rolled, caught the hammer mid-return, and kicked Jarnac in the knee so hard his armor cracked. The Overlord roared. He swung again. And again. Walls exploded. Statues shattered. The throne collapsed. But Gideon didn't stop moving. He was a blur of violence, a ghost dressed in pain. He broke Jarnac's armor piece by piece. Dodged kill strikes by a millimeter. Every hit he landed wasn't about flash. It was about damage. Pressure points. Tendon cuts. Crushing joints. Making the monster slow. Jarnac landed one solid punch. Gideon flew across the room, smashed into a pillar. He got up, smiling. Jarnac hesitated. Gideon charged. They collided in the center of the hole. Fists, blades, elbows, blood, steel. The floor shook. The ceiling cracked. Two titans in a cathedral of death. Then Gideon disarmed him. The hammer fell with a clang. Jarnac reached for it. Gideon grabbed him by the throat and said, almost kindly, "You built your throne from children." He lifted him off the ground. "So I'm building mine from monsters." Then he drove a combat knife through Jarnac's ribcage, straight into the heart. Twisted once. Jarnac twitched, shuddered, then died. Gideon dropped the corpse and lit the chamber's fuel lines. Dravis Prime exploded 40 minutes later, witnessed by 3 orbital satellites and 7 smuggler ships. Only one escaped. It broadcast a warning on every public channel, in every language. "He's not a man. He's not a soldier. He's the ghost of Earth. And is coming." They called it the Last Supper, a secret banquet held once every cycle. A ritual not for celebration, but consolidation. It was where the rulers of filth, slaver lords, flesh barons, syndicate architects, sat at one table and reminded themselves of who truly owned the galaxy. Not the council, not the law. And at the head of that table sat Morn Voltar, the slaver king, the origin, the first to turn human colonists into currency. His hands never touched whips, but his words created markets. He'd never fired a weapon, but he'd signed the order that starved 27 million. He wore no crown. He didn't need one. Everyone already bowed. His throne was a chair of woven hair, braided from thousands of victims, taken during the founding harvest. They said it whispered when you sat in it. They said you could hear them cry if the room was quiet enough. It never was. This time, the banquet was on Syndrax, a hollowed-out moon wrapped in fortress steel. No fleets could reach it undetected. No transmission could escape without being burned by 6-layer encryption. A black site for the elite. Inside the main hall, the ceiling stretched 100 meters high, walls carved with murals of chained worlds. A fire pit crackled beside fountains of red spice wine. The tables stretched across polished blackstone, and at each place sat a legend of cruelty. 48 of them. 48 kings of the outer galaxy. One woman was carried in on a gold-plated stretcher. She'd made her fortune breaking child performers and selling their recorded deaths as art. Another had a necklace made of eyeballs, one from every slave who ever bit back. They joked. They laughed. They ate. A human servant approached with a silver tray. They didn't look at him. He wasn't worth a glance. He moved slow, head down, robes too big, limbs too thin. Nothing unusual. Not here. He set the tray beside Voltar. The slaver king sipped his wine and waved without even looking. The servant turned, then stopped. One of the guests looked up. "Something wrong with your orders?" The servant didn't answer. He raised his head, just slightly. Voltar frowned. The room quieted. Then the robe fell, and Gideon Hawk stood among them, covered in black burns, face cracked with dried blood, muscles tense like drawn wires, and smiling. For the first time, he smiled. It wasn't joy. It was the end. He dropped the sphere onto the floor. It rolled once. Voltar recognized it too late. EMP! Everything went dark. The lights, the shields, the auto turrets, gone. Screams, then fire. The ceiling erupted. Charges hidden in the chandeliers. The mural walls shattered. Red-hot debris fell like meteor rain. Slavers scrambled. Some pulled knives, others guns. Gideon moved through them like death wrapped in bone. He crushed one guest's skull against the table. swung the silver tray into another's face, splitting it open down the middle. A woman tried to crawl under the banquet. He dragged her out by her ankle, shattered her jaw with his heel, and fed her into the fire pit. 2 bounty kings flanked him with blades. He ducked under the first swing, caught the second, snapped the man's wrist backward until it tore off, used a severed hand to stab the other in the throat. Blood hit the ceiling. Another guest begged, "Please, I only—" Gideon kicked his knee inward until it folded, then slit his throat before the scream reached full volume. 20 guards poured in from the upper hall. He turned the banquet table on its side, flipped 2 corpses behind it, grabbed a broken spear from the floor, and charged. The fight wasn't elegant. It was a massacre, one by one, bone by bone, blade through eye, knee to ribs, elbow to neck. They weren't soldiers. They were parasites, fat from safety, bloated on power. And Gideon was starvation. He left them in pieces. By now, smoke poured through the hole. Flames licked the tapestries. Bodies twitched on the floor. The guests were either dead, dying, or screaming in corners. All but one. Voltaire had crawled back to his throne. He held a shock pistol, hands trembling. "Stop. I can— listen. We can talk. We can—" Gideon walked toward him. Voltaire fired. Once. Twice. The bolts hit Gideon's side. Burned flesh. He didn't stop. He didn't flinch. He reached the throne, grabbed Voltaire by the throat, lifted him, slammed him down onto the woven hair seat. "You remember these?" He gestured to the throne beneath him. "They do." Voltaire shook his head, crying, "Please." Gideon looked around at the inferno, the bodies, the broken, the chains melting into the floor. He activated his wristband. The live broadcast began. Every screen, every sector, every slave world, every port, every black market lounge. He pointed the lens toward Voltaire. "This was your king." He held up the pistol. "This was your justice." He tossed the weapon into the fire. "This is your end." Then he picked up the slaver king's scepter, solid steel, used to beat slaves during public sales, and crushed Voltaire's face with it. Once, twice, until nothing remained but red. The world watched. The slavers watching from other planets panicked. Syndicate members ran. Executives went dark. The markets collapsed in real time, because it wasn't just war anymore. It was personal, and one man had declared it. Gideon turned the camera on himself. Blood coated his arms, his chest, his jaw. "If you own a cage, I'm coming." He dropped the transmitter and vanished into flames. Syndrax exploded 12 minutes later. The blast lit the sky of the dead moon. The debris formed a halo around the sun. The council issued statements, condemnations, denials. Nothing mattered. The galaxy saw the truth, and they didn't look away. The galaxy was bleeding. Syndrax was ash. Dravis Prime was a ruin. Cinder Station, gone. The Vorak fleet scattered like rats in a burning silo. And the name Gideon Hark had become something more than myth, more than fae. It was gospel. The markets collapsed in under 72 hours. Slave shipments stopped mid-route. Auctions canceled themselves. Entire syndicates turned on one another, paranoid, twitching, bleeding out in the dark. No one trusted anyone. They all saw him in the shadows, behind glass, in reflections, the ghost of Earth. But he wasn't hiding. He was waiting. The council scrambled. Debates echoed through clean domes and diplomatic chambers. Holograms flickered over marble floors. Uniforms, polished and pressed, passed blame like knives at a banquet. It was Earth. They deployed a rogue soldier. He acted alone. There is no official record of a SEAL team assigned. His destabilizing the galactic economy. His killing slavers. Are we defending slavers now? No one answered that last one, because the truth was clear now. He wasn't just killing slavers. He was erasing them. Root, branch, flame. And he wasn't done, because there was one place left. Corinvelt, the heart, the vault, the root of the root. A black-mirrored planet that never appeared on star charts. Hidden by wormhole scramblers, cloaked in gravity distortion, surrounded by 10 concentric rings of gunmetal and surveillance. It wasn't just the last bastion of the Slaver Empire. It was where the files were kept. Names, codes, transaction logs, blackmail dossiers on council members. It was the insurance policy of every monster in the galaxy. It was also a myth. Even most Slavers didn't know where it was. But Gideon did. He didn't follow maps. He followed screams. He found it in silence. No announcement. No signal. No flash in the sky. 1 minute the guards on Orbital Ring 1 were drinking stimulant brew, laughing. The next, the lights died. The feed cut. By the time anyone realized what was happening, Rings 2, 3, and 4 were already torn open. No invasion. No troops. Just absence. A silence that arrived like a plague. Ring 5 was where they saw him. Camera footage later retrieved showed a man walking shirtless down Corridor 7C, soaked in smoke, barehanded, dragging the body of a Corran enforcer behind him like luggage. The guards fired. The screen turned red. No one else was seen alive in that section again. The command center screamed for reinforcements. No answer. They scrambled the internal auto turrets. 1,000 mechanical death mouths aligned on the last corridor. Gideon walked straight through them. The footage cut. Again. Ring 6 detonated from the inside. Ring 7 depressurized. Ring 8 folded into itself as Gideon ignited the reactor. By Ring 9, they stopped trying to fight. They started trying to flee. It was too late. Inside Corran Velt's core, the vault doors trembled. 12-foot thick plates of alloy and energy shielding. Guarded by biometric protocols, psychic locks, kill switch failsafes. 30 guards. 4 elites. 2 war mines running synchronized kill matrices. None of it worked. The doors opened anyway. He walked through them like a storm under control. The Grand Archivist, robed in white, voice soft as poison, stepped forward. You can't. This is knowledge. These are records. These... Gideon shot him in the face. No hesitation. No speech. No mercy. He walked to the main console, a glowing orb suspended over antimatter pulses, surrounded by the whispers of 20,000 dead voices. He placed a small black cube into the console's port. The lights shifted. The machine spoke. Please confirm. Full data corruption and planetary self-immolation. Irreversible. Gideon didn't blink. Confirmed. Voice sprint authenticated. Mission approved. Seal Unit 9 final protocol. Active. The planet began to melt. Outside, sirens howled. Structures collapsed. Skies split open. The slaves kept in cryo vaults awoke in confusion, then found their chains melting. Doors opening. No guards left. Only silence. Gideon walked among them as the walls cracked and fell. Children blinked at him. No tears left. Only dirt. One reached out and touched his wrist. He paused. Looked down. She was maybe 6. Are you the angel? He didn't answer. He handed her a knife. If they come back, you fight. She nodded. Grip tight. He kept walking. The data was gone. The files. The Empire. Every name of every buyer. Every bribe. Every unmarked slave transport log. Erased. Because Gideon understood something no council ever would. Justice isn't paperwork. It's blood. And now, there was only one thing left. Him. He walked back through the burning holes. Alone. Reaching the outer field, where the last escape craft waited. A sleek black dot. No markings. No homing beacons. He climbed inside. Closed the hatch. Paused. Opened the communication line. His face appeared on hundreds of outlaw frequencies. Pirate screens. Private terminals. Secret council tablets. No password. No filter. Just his face. Cut. Burned. Smiling. This was not vengeance. This was alignment. He leaned forward. Eyes like war. To those who sold lives. To those who watched. To those who laughed. Look up. I'm still out here. He ended the transmission. The escape ship launched into the stars. Behind him, Corran Velt cracked apart, each layer igniting from within. Vaults collapsed. Fuel cells burst. The archives imploded in light. And then the core detonated. It wasn't just destruction. It was extinction. The last memory of the slave empire. Gone. In the month that followed, slave markets went dead. No trade. No names. No buyers. Even the bravest black market brokers abandoned their business because they all knew something simple, something final. He wasn't retired. He was roaming, like a curse with a compass. They called him the ghost. The last seal. The end. And on broken worlds, children carved his name into ruins, in the tongues of their ancestors, in the silence of freedom. Gideon Hawk. No one saw him again. No one needed to, because he had already done it. He had taken a galaxy that had built itself on chains, and snapped the last link with his bare hands.